I was working at a hotel in Bali. A British couple checked in, and within 10 minutes, the wife was at the front desk complaining. She said, "We can hear the call to prayer from the mosque. Can you ask them to stop? It's very loud and it's disrupting our holiday." I explained that Bali is a predominantly Hindu island, but Indonesia is a Muslim-majority country, and the call to prayer is a religious practice that happens 5 times a day. She looked at me like I'd just told her the sky was green and said, "Yes, but we're on holiday. Surely they can skip it for a week. We've paid a lot of money to be here." Her husband added, "In England, we have noise regulations. You should implement something similar here. It's just common courtesy." I told them the mosque had been there for decades. They demanded a refund and left a 1-star review saying Bali was too loud and not tourist-friendly. I work at a beach resort in the Maldives. A British man came to the desk absolutely furious. He said, "I've been sitting on the beach for 2 hours and nobody has brought me a drink." "What kind of service is this?" I asked if he'd been sitting in the bar area or the restaurant section. He said, "No, just on the beach. But I'm a guest here, so someone should have noticed me and come over." I explained that he needed to order at the bar or restaurant or use the service button on his sunbed if he was in a designated area. He got quite agitated and said, "That's ridiculous. In a proper resort, staff should be walking around offering drinks without being asked. That's what 5-star service means." His wife agreed, saying, "We stayed at a Butlins once and they were much more attentive." I was a tour guide in Kenya on a safari. A British woman on the game drive spotted a lion lying in the shade, far from our vehicle. She asked me, "Can you get it to come closer, maybe throw some food or something?" I explained that we absolutely cannot feed wild animals, and we maintain distance for safety and conservation reasons. She looked annoyed and said, "But we've paid for this safari and I can barely see it from here. Can't you just honk the horn or drive closer? What's the point of coming all this way if we can't get proper photos?" Her husband chimed in, "Yeah, at the zoo back home, the animals are right up against the glass. This is a bit disappointing, really." They spent the entire safari complaining that the animals weren't performing and suggesting we should have gone to Longli instead. I work at a restaurant in Italy. A British couple came in for dinner. The man asked for the menu, looked at it for 30 seconds and called me back. He said, "Do you have anything normal, like fish and chips or a Sunday roast?" I explained that we're an Italian restaurant serving Italian cuisine. He sighed and said, "Yes, but you must have something for people who don't like foreign food." His wife suggested, "Can't your chef just make something plain? Maybe some chicken and chips. Nothing fancy, just proper food." I offered them grilled chicken with roasted potatoes. She said, "Yes, but without any of those herbs and spices, just plain. And can we have gravy?" I told her we don't have British-style gravy. She looked appalled and said, "What kind of restaurant doesn't have gravy?" They ended up ordering pasta, complained it was too oily, left half of it, and told me Italian food was overrated anyway. I was working at a ski resort in Austria. A British family arrived and the father approached me at the equipment rental. He said, "I've rented skis before in Scotland and they were included in the lift pass. Why are you charging separately here?" I explained that in Austria, equipment rental and lift passes are priced separately. He shook his head and said, "That's a rip-off. You're just trying to squeeze more money out of tourists. In Britain, they do it properly." His wife added, "And why are all the signs in German? We can't read German. This is supposed to be an international resort." I pointed out that Austria is a German-speaking country. She said, "Yes, but most of your tourists are British, so you should cater to us." They spent the entire week complaining about Austrian inefficiency and telling anyone who'd listen that French ski resorts were better, even though they'd never been to one. I work at a museum in Egypt, specifically at the entrance to the Valley of the Kings. A British woman asked me why there was so much walking involved. I explained that the tombs are spread across the valley and walking is part of the experience. She said, "But I've got a bad knee. Can't you just bring the tombs to me or at least put in a travelator like they have at airports?" I told her we have golf carts available for visitors with mobility issues for an additional fee. She got quite indignant and said, "An additional fee? We've already paid for tickets. This should be included. In England, disabled access is free." Her husband said, "Yeah, this is discrimination. We should report you to someone." They demanded to speak to a manager who explained the same thing. They left, muttering that Egypt was a scam and not worth the trip. I was working at a vineyard in South Africa. A British couple came for a wine tasting. After the first glass, the man said, "This is a bit strong, isn't it? Can you water it down a bit?" I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. I explained that wine is served as intended by the winemaker and we don't dilute it. He looked at me like I was being unreasonable and said, "But I don't like it this strong. Just add a bit of water. It's not difficult." His wife said, "We do it all the time at home with red wine. Makes it more drinkable." I politely declined. He got quite cross and said, "This is terrible customer service. The customer is always right. In England, they'd accommodate us." They left without finishing the tasting and posted online that South African vineyards were pretentious and inflexible. I work at a cultural centre in Morocco. A British woman came in and asked if we had any tours in English. I told her we did, and the next one started in an hour. She said, "An hour? That's too long to wait. Can you start one now, just for me?" I explained that tours run on a schedule and we needed a minimum number of people. She got quite huffy and said, "I'm a paying customer. You should be flexible. I've taken the time to come here. The least you can do is accommodate me." Her husband added, "In Britain, customer service means bending over backwards. You lot could learn a thing or two." They demanded a refund, which I processed, and they left saying Morocco was backward and disorganised. I was a guide at the ruins of Angkor Wat in Cambodia. A British man asked me, "So how long did it take to build this?" I told him it was constructed over several decades in the 12th century. He looked around and said, "Seems a bit pointless, doesn't it? All this effort for a building that's falling apart now. Should have used better materials." His wife said, "Yeah, and there's no air conditioning. How did people survive here?" I explained that it was a temple not designed for comfort by modern standards. She said, "Well, they should install air conditioning now for tourists. It's boiling out here." He agreed and said, "If this was in England, the National Trust would have sorted it out properly. Cafe, gift shop, air conditioning, the lot. This is just ruins." I work at a restaurant in New York. A British couple sat down and asked for the menu. When I brought it, the man said, "These prices are in dollars, right?" I confirmed. He calculated the exchange rate on his phone and said, "Bloody hell, this is expensive. Don't you do a discount for British tourists? We've come all the way from England." I told him we don't offer nationality-based discounts. His wife said, "But the pound is stronger than the dollar, so really we should be paying less. That's how it works." I explained that wasn't how currency exchange works in restaurants. They ordered the cheapest items on the menu, complained about the portion sizes, tipped 5%, and left a review saying Americans don't understand hospitality. I was working at a beach in Thailand. A British woman approached me, absolutely livid. She said, "I've just been stung by a jellyfish. Why didn't you warn us there were jellyfish here?" I pointed to the warning signs posted on the beach in English and Thai. She said, "Well, I didn't see those. You should have someone standing here telling people. This is negligent. In England, beaches are safe. We don't have dangerous animals in the water." Her husband demanded compensation for the sting. I offered first aid and suggested they visit the medical centre. He said, "That's not good enough. We're going to report this to the British Embassy. You can't just have dangerous wildlife and expect tourists to deal with it." They wrote to the tourism board demanding Thailand implement jellyfish-free zones for British tourists. If you've enjoyed this collection of British entitlement abroad, give it a like and subscribe for more. Cheers.